Hello, friends. This is Dave Hurwitz, executive editor at ClassicsToday.com, here in the Overflow Room Annex, talking about books, random reviews of books. Yes. Well, I got a very nice response from my first two entries in this series, which encourages me to continue. No, I didn't get a lot of views, actually, but that's okay. That's okay. I mean, I'm doing this for love anyway, so what difference does it make? Today we have books on three great composers, Bach, Wagner, and Berlioz, and some classic ones too, really classic stuff. First, Bach by Christoph Wolff. Bach, the Learned Musician is the subtitle. Johann Bach, the learned musician, is a monumental work that must find its way into the library of every musician and every dedicated lover of music. Okay, yeah. Wonderfully organized, profoundly researched, it is. And vastly informative, it is that too. The book not only provides an extraordinary overview of the enormous literature on Bach, but also gives us an artistic judgment of the composer that is far wider and deeper than we might imagine. Here we find a clear account of Bach's preeminence as a wondrous pathfinder for musical creativity that affected all composers who came after him. Well, that's a bit of a push, but that's okay. Really, really beautiful book that talks about exactly what it says. Bach's depth of knowledge and erudition, which was absolutely extraordinary. It really was. I mean, he was, the ultimate musician in some ways. I mean, because everything he did, he lived and breathed music, and we know how much in this book. When I met Christoph Wolff, he was very kind, and we talked about this a little bit. It really is a wonderful introduction to Bach, because it's not hagiographic. I mean, it's not just Bach. It's a serious, in-depth study, and I think for people who sort of mindlessly just say, "Oh, Bach's the greatest. Bach is this. Bach is that." This is the book that they should have read, because it gives you a wonderful overview of just what we're talking about. It's not mindless admiration. It's informed admiration. And that's a much better thing. So that's a great Bach book. Also, a classic. Oh, is this a classic? Wagner Operas by Ernest Newman. Yes, this is as fine an introduction as any ever written about a major composer's masterpieces. Newman outlines with unfailing clarity and astuteness each opera's dramatic sources, and he takes the student through the completed opera step by step, with all manner of incidental insight along the way. He was the foremost Wagner expert of our century, and he discusses 10 of Wagner's best-known operas. Well, there really aren't much more than that, are there? Except for the early things. You get The Flying Dutchman, Tannhäuser, Lohengrin, Tristan and Isolde, the Meistersinger. I always call it the Master Singers of Nuremberg. Don't you think Die Meistersinger is just a better thing to call it? And then the Ring operas and Parsifal. So yeah, all the major Wagner operas from The Flying Dutchman onwards, basically. And Neumann is another wonderful guide through Wagner, although this particular book, is yellowing a little bit. I've had it for, so many years. Oh boy, but you get musical examples. Yeah. I mean, it's very detailed and extremely insightful. And, I'm not really a big Wagnerian, but that's a wonderful book to read. And last, but certainly not least, this is really, really major. David Cairns' epic Berlioz biography, which is fascinating. Berlioz was such a fascinating guy because, not only was he a great composer, but he was, a writer. He was a critic and a journalist and an observer, an incredibly keen observer, a fabulous author. And so, we have Berlioz himself to help write this biography. It comes in 2 volumes, 2 gesunte volumes. First, Volume 1. Oh my God, The Making of an Artist. And Volume 2, Servitude and Greatness. Yeah, very, very serious stuff here. I mean, it's Berlioz was big, right? I mean, he wrote epic stuff, and this is an epic biography. Cairns was the translator of Berlioz's memoirs. He knows more about Berlioz than Berlioz probably knew about Berlioz. He writes in a very engaging style. It's a fascinating story. Berlioz is such a good writer himself. Let's put it this way, that it took me a long time to actually want to read anything about him because he's so much fun writing about himself. I mean, his memoirs are fabulous. Evenings with the Orchestra is one of the most marvelous, hilarious books you'll ever read in your life. In music, it's somewhere here. We'll get to it eventually. It's really exceptional. And so to be able to write about Berlioz on a level of interest that matches Berlioz himself is an extraordinary achievement. And Cairns does it here. If you are curious about romantic music, if you're interested in what was happening in the middle of the 19th century in France and everywhere else, if you're interested in the life of somebody who was just an unbelievably extraordinary, passionate character, then you want to read this biography. Berlioz's last years were terrible. He had cancer, and he was in horrible pain for like the last decade of his life. Today we find it hard to fathom how people managed to persevere and live when they had these incurable illnesses they couldn't do anything about. Their lives were agony, and yet they were unflaggingly resourceful and creative. It's really an extraordinary story. I mean, his marriage was miserable. His son died of yellow fever in Haiti. He was in the French Navy. And through it all, there he was writing these trying to get Les Troyens produced at the opera. What an amazing guy, and what a fabulously entertaining and enjoyable biography David Cairns has written. So there you have it, my friends. Some tremendous books for you to sink your teeth into. My God, it doesn't get much more major than that, does it? So there you go. Bach, Wagner, and Berlioz. Some light reading when you've got a few extra minutes. Keep on listening, friends, and keep on reading. Take care.